Okay, go ahead, Federico.
Okay, welcome everybody to the first webinar for the Global Book Crawl. We're very happy to have you here. I understand there's people from all over the world, from Guatemala to Kyrgyzstan, Switzerland, and some places in Africa. Unfortunately, the guys from Australia couldn't join us because it's too late for them now. But probably you're watching this recorded, so it's great. Well, the first thing is most of you already know about this idea, about this project, but let me tell you once again the very basics. This idea is part of a larger project to create a platform where booksellers from all over the world can interact, exchange, cooperate. And this is the Global Book Crawl is the first initiative and is set up for April, the last week of April this year. And basically is a coordinated local events. It's local crawls. We're going to explain, Jessica Stoughton from Brooklyn, she's going to explain us in detail what a local crawl is. But these local events coordinated become a global movement. And we expect a lot of attention from traditional media and social media, which will enable us to expand our outreach and well, increase our visibility. And so, what do you say? Shall we dive in, Jessica? And well, today Jessica Stockton from Greenlight Bookstore in Brooklyn is with us. She has a lot of expertise organizing book crawls. And Britt Conroy from Tertulia, bookshop like no other, from Westport in Ireland. We are, well, the team that has been coordinating all the efforts to make this this possible. So we're very happy to be here today. So would you like to say something, Britt or Jessica, before we start with the questions?
Yeah, I'll just say yes, that you've probably said this before, Federico, to some of the people on the call, but I suppose it's important to mention we came together originally through the RISE program, and I was an exchange student at the Libreria Luces in Malaga, which was wonderful, in August, roasting hot anyway. So part of this project has emerged because we felt the need to continue to keep contact with each other. So obviously I'm there and exchange and we become friends, but we want to enable each other to work together to benefit all our bookshops. And then subsequently, Federico, you met Jessica at Sharjah, I believe, yes, and jumped upon the opportunity to use an initiative that already worked in Brooklyn and to give it a more global aspect. So yeah, I suppose we'll crack on. Jessica, I suppose you're the most experienced of us all in this particular initiative, so we're looking to you for your expertise.
Yeah, and I'm so delighted to have met you both and to be a part of this. I mean, the Sharjah conference in Dubai was really my first time kind of connecting with the global bookseller community. I've know a lot of folks in the US bookselling community, but this is like, you know, a huge step forward, I think, in collaboration between our shops, which all operate very locally. So I'm really excited about the possibilities here and excited to give people the tools to do this project where they are and connect with this whole network. So I think you have some questions for me to kind of lead us through this process. So Britt, what have you got?
Right, so I suppose we'll just start right at the beginning. So in Brooklyn, you started doing a bookshop crawl. So tell us how long you were doing it for and what I suppose just an overview of what it entails.
Sure. So we've been doing the Brooklyn Bookstore Crawl for about 10 years, and it's evolved in numerous different ways. It started out actually with some some volunteers who weren't involved with bookstores just wanting to visit a bunch of different stores. And then we took it over as the bookstores ourselves. And like many of the bookstore crawls in the US, it's oriented around Independent Bookstore Day, which is the last Saturday in April in the US. So a lot of regions in the country, from Seattle to Washington, D.C., San Francisco, a lot of different places have started these bookstore crawls, typically in the week or a few weeks leading up to Bookstore Day, because there's already a lot of excitement about bookstores in that period. And this was a way to sort of give people a reason to visit as many stores, as many independent bookstores as they could. A day is not really enough to visit multiple stores, especially if they're spread out. So a lot of stores took a week. Some regions take a month. So there is a lot of flexibility there. But we in Brooklyn learned a lot from our colleagues in Seattle, for example, and in Washington, D.C. about what could work about this. And the goal is really just to make it kind of an exciting adventure for folks who, are interested in books, are interested in culture, want to explore different neighborhoods or different parts of their region. So we created a passport with all of the different participating stores. Folks visit as many as they can during that time period, and they get a stamp or a signature for each of the stores they visited. For us, when they have visited 5 stores, they get a coupon that gives them a discount at any of those stores. And the more stores they visit, the more prizes they can win. We host an after party where we do a drawing and people get entries based on how many stores they visited. So that's one model. Not every bookstore crawl works the same way, but all of them share in common that the goal is to visit numerous bookstores within this time frame, and that it has this kind of like quest adventure quality to it, that makes it exciting and gives people the opportunity to explore these different unique spaces, some of which they might not have seen before.
Well, that was a whistle-stop tour, Jessica. Let's go. I suppose let's go back on a few of those points, I suppose. So first of all, the organizers. So it started off in conjunction with bookshop day or week, and we have a similar thing in Ireland. But it doesn't have to be at that week, I might add, because here in Ireland ours is in June and this initiative is going to be in April, so it doesn't have to be together. It's great that it worked for you. So who runs it then? So it's the same as I suppose what we're doing, isn't it? It's a group of independent bookshops just come together to do it, and you set it in motion each year.
Absolutely. And I think what I've found in the different regions that have done the book crawls, there's usually 1 or 2 or a small group of stores who are really doing the work of organizing it, and a larger group who is happy to participate. So I think the key is at the very beginning of planning a crawl is to figure out who do I want to reach out to participate here, and who can I reach out to maybe help with the organizing work. Because we've got a couple folks who work on, the design, the outreach, the publicity, the printing, all of those different logistics pieces. And so the very first thing I think is to sort of like get together that core group and see who can we work together on. Because this is a project that like stands or falls by collaboration. It's extremely collaborative from start to finish. So we can provide some materials, I think, as samples, but there's still a certain amount of work that has to be done locally. So the best thing to do is to get that group of people who are excited about the idea and who can work together to make it happen.
I'm supposed to say as well, not to frighten people at this stage, is that because of the collaborative nature, which the whole thing is, but going back to your particular situation, that does make it less onerous, doesn't it? I mean, I'm sort of embarking on the Irish one at the moment, and I'm at that phase. So my objective is to make it less onerous, because the work is spread. So therefore, there's not, we don't need to be frightened thinking there's lots of work to do. Am I right in thinking that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the strength and the difficulty of this project is that it
Yes.
has to be collaborative. So sometimes I think the most work is getting all of these stores together, getting all of their information, helping them understand the concept. But also the benefit is that you don't have to do it alone as a single bookseller, because I know we're all busy. We all have so many demands on our time. So this is something that's meant to be done as a group. And to the degree that you can connect with folks who can help you with the project, the better it's going to work.
Yeah, I suppose what like there are other helps as well, and this probably apply to you as well. So for instance, I'd contact the Booksellers Association of Ireland and England, and they've given me a list of all their members in Ireland, not their contact details because of GDPR, but certainly I have that list, and it's actually really useful because I can go through the list. Who do I know well on that list? So I'm contacting them first, and then there's the other people. And also the Booksellers Association will send out emails if I want, to everybody, which I'm going to do as well. So there is other help there from other associations, that might be able to help. So let's see. So
Yeah.
you mentioned as well, I suppose I'm interested in hearing like what happens. I know you mentioned there's a coupon, for instance. So I saw that. I was looking at the coupons. If people visit the shops, they get 25% off. So that's something that happens in that week. Anything else that kind of happens in that week that makes people excited? I know visiting is part of it, but other than that, when they arrive in the bookshop, what happens, for instance?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think it doesn't actually take a lot to make this exciting for folks, because it feels like a scavenger hunt, which is, there's sort of, like I said, that little bit of a quest element. You're trying to visit as many stores as you can. For us, because it is around Independent Bookstore Day, we do have a lot of programming leading up to that date. And on Saturday, the last Saturday in April, we have authors coming. We have, special merchandise that's only available that day. So, we have like giveaways, and it's very festive. So I think if you're able to sort of have some extra special stuff in that week, that's like a reason for folks to visit your store, even if it's like, if you get some free swag from a publisher and you want to give it away that week, I think that's great. I think that's one of those things that's going to be different and individual for every store. And maybe it's just the passport itself can be like a beautiful thing that people want to hang on to, and collect it with all of their signatures. So I think that's something that stores can work on together, is sort of like, what are the benefits? What are the attractions of coming into the bookstore? What do you get if you complete the quest, if you visited all of these stores? And we wanted to make it so that there's a motivation, even just to visit a few. So if you only get to 5 bookstores in a week, that's great, and you get this coupon. But then for people who are really motivated, the more they visit, the more prizes they can win. And I've seen that with other stores, with other crawls that have been around for a long time. They try and speak to both ends of the spectrum. Like folks who are like, oh, maybe I'll visit a couple, and people who are like, no, I'm a completist. I'm going to visit every single store that's involved. So I think it's great if you can offer something for both.
Yeah, so I like that. So it's 5. Yeah, if they visit 5, they get the coupon, but they can visit them all if they want to, which is great. So in terms of the putting together of the passport, I know I asked you this the other day as well. So there's a design there, and we have that design, so people can copy that same design. So that doesn't have to be any more work. But in terms of the costing of it, I suppose. So you had said that you organize the printing by those few organizers you mentioned, and then you charge, say, 50 if one shop wants 50, or if another wants 100. That's how you did it. And so has that worked well, or how has that worked?
Yeah, it works well for us, but again, it's just one model. So what we do is, Greenlight Bookstore can cover the initial printing costs, and then we ask stores to reimburse us for how many passports they take, and we ask them to take at least 50. So for us, that works out to about $20, 20 American dollars, is like the minimum buy-in, because we can't afford as a single bookstore to cover the cost for everybody. But we also want to make it accessible, so it's not a huge sort of barrier to entry. I know some book crawls, like Seattle, for example, they just have a flat rate that they charge as dues. So if you want to participate, you pay this amount, and that covers the passport. It covers, you get a couple of posters, and you get, your listing on their website. But you might do it different ways. I'm sure folks could come up with creative solutions. I think you were talking about maybe you just design something that you can send folks as a digital file, and then they can print however many they need, and then the printing costs are reduced. Or maybe somebody has the ability to like create them in-house, and then that's a lower cost. I mean, I think you want to get folks to commit to being actively involved, to distributing the passports, to signing off on the passports, to honoring the coupon or whatever it is. But I think there are different ways to manage the costs of running it. And as you said, there may be some organizational or institutional support from local booksellers organizations. I know our regional association has a little bit of funding we can use. For example, if we want to have an artist design our passport, they might be able to give us, a few $100s that we could reimburse the artist. Or if you have like a National Booksellers Association, they might have some funding that they could help with the cost of producing those. Really, the biggest cost is our time as booksellers. So you figure out how much you can afford of that. And again, the more we can distribute it, the better. But yeah, that's how we have funded the printing, but there are different ways to do it.
So again, it's not
Let me,
too onerous.
sorry, Ray, let
Yeah.
me just stress that idea that Jessica said, that everything we give from the coordination team is just suggestions, but within the umbrella of the global book crawl, each local crawl should adapt first to the local circumstances and should express the local culture, idiosyncrasy. For instance, Madalena from Florence just asked if we have a definition for independent bookstore. We don't. There's no official definition. It may vary from the perspective of one country to another. And anyhow, we want to be as inclusive as possible. So it's up to you guys to decide who you want to include. Even Jessica, at some point you've said if Barnes and Noble asked you to join the local the Brooklyn bookstore crawl, you would let them in. They haven't, but I think you said that at some point.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, for us, the only yes, absolutely, Federico, and I was hoping we could talk about this, but I think every region can set their own definition for how they want to define the book crawl. And that's actually why we wanted to call it the book crawl instead of the bookstore crawl, because you can expand it beyond bookstores if you want to. If there is a very active library, or if there's sort of like a literary cultural site, like an author's residence or something like that, that you want to include in the crawl, of course, do it. For us, our definition was any store that has a physical location that sells books. So there may be some gift shops that also have books. We're like, yes, join the crawl, be involved. Or if you're like, no, that's too many, like we want to define it a little more narrowly, like do that in your region. There's not one way to do it. And we're trying to provide materials for folks to do what works for them on their local level.
But equally, there is, you've already set that passport photo or that passport format up, which I think works well, I suppose. I don't know, and I was thinking more of the logos and stuff. Yeah, so there's logos there that we have that can
For the
be,
global book crawl, yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
which is good to use it, but each one is local, and as you said, can include who you want to include in it. Yes.
Yeah, it could be, you could just use that logo and say, Global Book Crawl Ireland edition, or you could design something totally specific to your region and then have the Global Book Crawl logo like somewhere on there. Or, just use the hashtag or whatever it is. I mean, I think we're trying to make it as flexible as possible, but also have this sort of like critical mass of independent bookstores all over the world, drawing attention in the last week of April. So that's really the only kind of parameters. It's like, let's all do something at the same time to make this a really big story. But independent bookstores are independent, and local needs are different, and we want for people to adapt to what works for them.
Yes, I suppose at that stage I was going to interact with the Irish experience. So here in Ireland we have 108 roughly independent bookshops, and they're spread out all over, although we're a small island, actually, but even still they're spread all over the place. So like on yours, Brooklyn, on your lovely passport, you see, I don't know, was there like 25 or something?
About 25, yeah.
Yeah, and that fits lovely into a couple of pages of a passport, but like in one town there'd only be one, and even in Dublin, there's not really that many independent bookshops either. So our idea for Ireland is to run it over the course of the summer. So we're going to launch it during that week. So yes, all the bookshops will launch their crawl. and nationally we'll be launching it. But the idea then is that we run it throughout the summer. So we're going to have some tagline about, doing bookshops over the summer. I don't know, whatever that will end up being. So the idea is, yeah, when you're on holidays in the summer, like everybody visits somewhere else in Ireland during the summer, that they will get stamps from their other bookshops, so it's to promote the whole idea throughout the summer. And then there will be some prize at the end of the summer. So that can work. I mean, you said that other place like Seattle do it over a month, so it's not all done in the week. So
Yeah.
so location or closeness to other bookshops shouldn't be an issue. You can run it as long as you want over whatever period.
I love that. That sounds fantastic. And it makes me think of in Brooklyn, our library system did something like this, and it was very open-ended. I think they did it over like a year, but they created like a little booklet, and it had like it was small, but it had like a page for every branch. And so you could try and visit as many branches as you could, and there were maybe 100. And then you get the little sticker or the stamp, and then you see how many you can get at the end of that time period. So yeah, for us, it's sort of like, there's a lot concentrated in a small area, and so we do it in a concentrated amount of time. But I think if you are more spread out geographically, it makes sense to do it over a longer amount of time, but still to kind of launch in that first week of April to get that sort of like great media attention as you're starting out.
Go on, Federico.
Yeah, that's important. When we concentrate all the attention, because people's attention span is limited. So they're not going to be paying attention to the crawl for a whole year, not even for a month. And a week or 2 weeks after it's over, people probably will move on to something else. So even if you organize it to be held for a longer time, it's important during that week to benefit and also to contribute to that outreach through social media and traditional media outlets as well.
Yeah, and I think we should add also that for us, this is an annual thing in Brooklyn, and I think we're hoping that it becomes an annual thing, the global book crawl.
Oh yes, of course.
So if you are, I wouldn't say like, we haven't always had 25 bookstores in our crawl. We started out with, just a few. So I think the goal is to just start and see how far you can get. And then next year it will be bigger and better organized, and the next year more so. So better to do anything than to be like, well, I can't organize 25 bookstores in 3 months. Even if you can get together like, half a dozen or 3 or, a few across a larger region, I think it's great to start something this year. And then we learn from it every year. We make it a little bit better. We're definitely still growing and evolving our crawl planning, even after 10 years. So I think starting small is actually great.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Yes.
Yeah,
not for people
point.
not to be deterred by the ambition.
Yeah, I suppose when I was thinking about it today as well, going through our list, like that, even if it's 3 or 4 or 5, for people to be exposed to that, to be exposed to what's going on in all those shops in one space, even that is a huge achievement, to know that there's 5 independent bookshops and they're all doing something different and they're all doing something in that week. And yeah, it is. And we all have our own PR machines, you might say, and then suddenly you're combining your PR machines. That's kind of what I'm excited about as well. I'm thinking, you could do video footage, you can share that, we can put together, like there's loads of things one can do. Obviously, not all at once, probably. I had another question, Jessica, which I noticed you do this after party. I was particularly interested in that because, if ours is going to be over a long period, like Federico says, by the time it's finished, everyone will probably have forgotten about it. So then you want to kind of get a second round of PR by having, some kind of after party. But you do it at the end of the week. And how's that worked, or how have you coordinated it?
Sure. So one of the other stores that we work with closely has like a big dedicated event space. So it's like, you know, we sort of organize the front end logistics and they organize the party, and that works really well. And yeah, we do it sort of at the end of the day on Saturday on bookstore day. So people have been going to bookstores all week long. They're all fired up. And then, you know, the excitement is that they then get to meet each other. So it's a very meet cute kind of thing. Like people, like book lovers love to meet other book lovers. And we give out prizes. And again, there could be different models for that. What we do is we ask participating bookstores on a volunteer basis if they would like to donate some of their bookstore swag. So some bookstores do t-shirts with their brand on them, some do mugs, some might donate. If they're a used bookstore, they might donate like, you know, some nice edition or something like that. And we end up with like bags and bags of like really nice, you know, bookstore souvenirs that, you know, if you are a person who would go to a bookstore crawl, you would like. And so, you know, some do gift certificates or, you know, whatever they have that they can donate that is affordable and reasonable for them. And so then we raffle them off at the party. You know, we have some drinks, we have some music, we have some, you know, thanks. Sometimes we do some like icebreakers or mixers, but it's very low key, it's very low cost. It's just, you know, getting the people together in a room to kind of celebrate that they've like completed this journey together. So I think for yours, it would be fantastic to have like a party at the end of the summer, if you wanted to. But because it's so geographically distributed, you might want to think about something else. Maybe there's like, you know, a place online like that people could send in pictures of their completed passport and like, you know, get an online gift card or something like that. Like obviously this will happen in different ways. But I think the takeaway is that, you know, book lovers love to get together. So if you are able to host something like that, that can be really fun. But I think it's not necessary. It's just what has worked for us. And it might be, you know, that you have a big board where you're like, here's like the top, you know, book crawlers, like here are the people who visited the most stores or something like that. And so they get some fame and glory out of it. So whatever it is to kind of like just recognize and celebrate when you get to the end.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, great suggestions, Jessica. Yeah.
I was going to say also, if folks have other questions, if you want to drop them in the chat as we go, we can address them as we go. I think we're planning on maybe 45 minutes here. So if you have things you would like to know more about, please put them in the chat.
Federico, do you want to ask some questions, or is there any in the chat? I'm just looking now.
We had one from Madalena from Florence, as I said. But yes, we'd love to hear from you guys, from your questions or comments. Claudia, we have Claudia from Mexico. She works in RELI, the network of independent bookstores. We also have Friederike Schur from Germany. She organized she's behind the first bookstore crawl in Germany. She did it in November, I think. And maybe at some point we can ask her to tell us a little bit of how that went for her. I understand they got a lot of help from the local government, so it would be interesting to know how they manage that. So yes, if you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and drop them in the chat.
Yeah, and just can I add a
Yes,
couple of
I
things?
wanted to ask Jessica, in terms of social media, what have you done? Um,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that we ask. So as we get bookstores involved in the crawl each year, we send out, we use a Google form to say, you know, if you'd like to be involved, just fill this out. That's really, you know, the only requirement. And the form has all of their, you know, the bookstore's name and address, their open hours, which is very important, their website, and their social media handle. And then we ask them to commit to how many passports they would like to take. So as we are doing online publicity, we use a lot of Instagram and some Facebook and some TikTok. We're tagging the other stores as we go, and then we're asking them to do the same. So the idea is that all of us, you know, some have bigger social media followings than others, but we're all sort of like raising each other's profile by tagging each other whenever we're talking about it. We also have a local hashtag, you know, Brooklyn Bookstore Crawl. I think it might be shortened to like BKLYN or something because that's very long. But then we also, of course, want to encourage folks to use the global book crawl tag, because then as people are looking for information about the crawls, they'll find, you know, not only the stores that they know, but also all of these others that are participating. So for us, we really start, you know, our public facing marketing, like probably at the late March, early April. And we're talking about both Independent Bookstore Day and the Bookstore Crawl. And this year we'll also be talking about the Global Book Crawl. But, you know, any earlier than that, and it's not necessarily going to stick for folks. We're sending out our media press release probably in March, and then our social media to customers, you know, the people who might actually be doing the crawls, starting in early April, to let them know that it's happening this year. We have a website that has like all of the participating bookstores, or, you know, we can let them know, you know, visit these stores to pick up a passport. But yeah, it's important for sort of like all of the stores participating to all do what they can to sort of like raise the profile and tag each other.
And that form, all those forms are all available on the website. They can be downloaded straight from our website. Global
Yeah,
Book
at
Club.
least a sample version. I mean,
Sample,
we've
yeah.
put a bunch of materials up there from the Brooklyn Bookstore Crawl. And I'm hoping we can add some more from other successful crawls. Like, here's what their materials look like. Obviously, none of those will be exactly one-to-one for another region, but hopefully it's a model that you can start from, so you don't have to start from scratch. But yeah, there will be more resources coming. And I think it is, even if you don't use those forms exactly or those templates exactly, it's good to sort of start thinking about like which of these apply to what we want to do here, and what do we want to do differently.
Yes, Deborah from Switzerland, from Zurich. She's asking how can in places where there are many bookstores out of the big cities, how they can do it. And I think there is one in, I don't know if it's North Carolina. There's a bookstore crawl that brings together stores from a larger region. It's not just one city, but several cities, and they come together for the bookstore crawl. And in Australia as well, in the Blue Mountains, the bookstores are very scattered, so they organize themselves in maybe they need a longer um, time span for the book crawl, so they can do it in a couple of weeks or even a month if they need to. Uh, but again, this has to be flexible. It's part of the the global thing, but also the local side. You want to benefit from the global exposure, but you need to adapt to the local circumstances. So I
Yeah,
think
there's
that, yeah, go ahead.
absolutely. There's a number of the bookstore crawls in the US that are like a whole state or a whole region. Like there's one that's like South Puget Sound, which is like a body of water. So they're like all the bookstores on the coast, like they all do one together. Some, I think North Carolina will call it the bookstore trail. So it's sort of like you imagine going along the trail, and yeah, several of them do it over a month or 2 months or a whole season. So yeah, that's absolutely an option and makes a lot of sense if you're a little bit more scattered, and that can definitely work as well. I think those regions have found that that's really effective for them. And I think one of the important things to convey, especially when you're trying to get other stores involved, is every bookstore that has participated in a crawl has seen their foot traffic increase during the time period of the crawl. They see more customers coming into their store. And even if they're not like the biggest book buyers, they want something to kind of like commemorate that journey. So they're going to buy a book or a hat or a t-shirt or something. So it does absolutely end up affecting sales in a really positive way. Whether it's in a week or a month or a season, like bookstores are going to see the difference in the number of people visiting.
Yeah, so I like the idea of the trail. Yeah, calling it a trail. Yeah, and I suppose we're trying to come up with something that maybe is a trail, but maybe it's a summer trail, that's linked to your summer experience, particularly for kids, that you remember visiting all these bookshops during the summer. Yeah, we need to come up with a tagline for that. If anyone's got one, please forward it on. Yeah, Deborah,
Yes,
we can talk about that, Deborah. Yeah, be great to have a chat about how it might work in Switzerland as well as Ireland. Yeah.
there is another question from Claudia concerning the what materials we can give to other organizers to help them on the website, on our website, book globalbookcrawl.org. There's a page that's called resources, and we're going to upload all the resources, in some cases templates that you can edit to help you, of course, with the uh, we're working now on a passport that can be editable, and we're going to upload as well materials for social media, and any, of course, any suggestions or any questions you you can you can send it to us, and we'll be happy to help.
And I think one of the most useful things you can do as you're sitting down with your core group of who are going to be the organizers for this is set yourself a timeline. And again, that's going to be unique to where you are, but it's like if you are planning on doing printing of passports, how long is that printing going to take? And you can sort of work backwards, like if we need everybody to have these passports by April 20th, how long does it take to get them the passports? And then when do we need to have the passports? And then when do we need to submit the art or the design to be printed for the passports? And then when do we need to have all of the bookstores information, and sort of work your way back to figure out when you might need to have these things come together? Because I've found that, I mean, one of the points of having the bookstore crawl in a finite period of time is that people do better with deadlines. If you're just like, sometime you should visit all these bookstores, it might never happen. So you say, in a week, see how many bookstores you can visit, and people are very motivated. And the same thing can be true of the bookstores that you're organizing. If you're saying, if you want to take part, I need all of your information by the 1st of March or whatever the date is for you, then you're going to get more people sort of like getting motivated to get you that information. So figure out what that timeline is. And for me, the only way to do it is to work backwards from where you need to end and how long each piece is going to take. But I think that's sort of like the best thing to do when you sit down to start your planning.
Yeah, we have a message from Frederica in Hanover. She mentions their crawl, and she says they do it in November because it's the time they celebrate Independent Bookstore Day, so it's the perfect time for them. But we should discuss ways that we can promote your bookstore crawl, even if it's in November, from our website. So of course we'll talk about that.
And I love this from Jan in Uppsala, who's talking about where 10 years ago they did a quiz where the participating bookshops each contributed a question and a book prize, and the customers then had to visit all the shops to get all the questions. That's brilliant. That's
Yes, of course.
absolutely the kind of thing that people will get excited about. That sounds so cool. So maybe it's just about sort of like recreating that for this time period in April. That'd be a fantastic way to participate.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, we did something similar with businesses close to us. They're not all bookshops, and that was brilliant as well. We did it at Christmas. It was for kids, but they absolutely loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely something that I think tends to appeal a lot to kids and families, that scavenger hunt aspect. But we also find that we get sort of like young single folks get really excited about it. It's like a thing they do together with their friends, like something like a pub crawl, but it's a bookstore crawl. So I think it can be, for all ages, but definitely having something that appeals to kids, I think helps.
Yeah, and also one of the things that I was thinking is inviting schools to do the bookstore crawl. If you have some activities that they can complete during the crawl, like questions on some literary aspects or the history of the city, you can have them visit the stores and solve, as Jan says, uh, find the answer to the question. So yeah, that could work as well. So, Britt, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I suppose the other side, I suppose, more on the international aspect. I suppose here in Ireland, as you know, we get terrible weather, and so people are always going elsewhere to get sun in the summer. So as part of our one, I suppose it will be about getting stamps in Ireland, but there's also the potential for when people go on holiday. So if there's somewhere where, or we'll probably create somewhere where all the bookshops are listed, won't we? Isn't that the
Yes, yes,
people will be
absolutely,
able
of
to,
course.
so like say they're going to Malaga on holiday, which a lot of us do here in Ireland, they will know, oh, there's a participating bookshop in Liberia, Liberia Luces. So it's to make the international connection too.
Absolutely. Yes, this is something we've discussed. On our website, there's going to be the details for every participating bookstore, not only the list of participating cities, but under each city, the list with the details, address, website, phone number for each bookstore, participating bookstore. So, and that information will remain there. So that, which means that if in April I'm here in Malaga, but in I don't know, September I travel to Florence, I can go to the website because I did, of course, I did my bookstore crawl here in Malaga, and I had a wonderful time. So I want to visit the bookstores in Florence. I have information about bookstores in the city I'm visiting, which are, I guess, similar to the ones I love in my where I live, right?
And
So yes,
also, I think
that's a way to give the exposure long term.
yeah,
To,
and I suppose I'm thinking of, if you kind of walk into another bookshop in a city you don't live in, but if you have the passport with you, it's almost like it's a kind of passport, isn't it, into the shop? It's I love that idea because we've sent people to your bookshop or we've sent them
yes,
to Magdalena's bookshop, or any bookshops. If anyone's going on holiday, I tell them to visit. But if they now have their passport with the little logo on it, it's almost like you're kind of knowing who they are almost, aren't you? It's like, I'm here with my passport. You better be nice to me, which we would anyway, still.
that's probably
that's
an idea for coming editions.
Well, it is, of course, but you can still take their passport with them. Take it with you
Sure,
everywhere you go. Yeah.
sure,
But
sure.
just having that, building that international list of bookstores, I think is the dream. I mean, both for people who love bookstores and who want to, I mean, of course, every time I visit another city, that's the first thing I'm looking up is I'm like, where are the bookshops? That's what I want to visit. But also for us as a community of bookstores and booksellers to start to be able to connect together. And I'm just thinking like, even the fact that like I'm learning things from people in the chat, I'm like, oh, I've never thought of that. That's brilliant. Is such a testament to what happens when we start to collaborate together. We're never going to do everything the same way, but we're always going to have something to learn from each other. And that I think is such a huge part of the point of this project. So I'm so excited about the possibilities.
Any don'ts, Jessica, or any things to avoid?
Um, I think the biggest one for me is like, don't bite off more than you can chew at the beginning. Like, figure out what is like realistic and sustainable for the resources that you have. Because it's better to do a small thing well than to try and do a bad thing and do it badly. So I think we learned that. We tried a couple things that were like, oh, we can't really do that. Like we don't have enough time, we don't have enough resources. So I think, starting with what you're really genuinely able to do and do really well, is great. And we do have to reach out to folks every year and make sure that we have their updated information because it always changes. New stores have opened, stores have closed, stores have changed their hours, they've moved locations. So not taking it for granted that, everybody who did it last year is going to do it this year, or, that one place you went is still there. We have to make sure all of our information is very up to date. So those would be the two. don't take it for granted. Don't bite off more than you can chew.
Excellent.
Lessons for life, Jessica, not just.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps it up, right?
Yep. And I think the hope is that we are going to continue to add to that resources page on the Global Book Crawl website. And we may schedule some more of these webinars if it's helpful to folks. I think we could possibly bring in people with different experiences who could share more of like the different models that exist. But I know, Federico, you've been doing an amazing job of making sure that folks are able to reach out to us, to share their information, to share their questions and ideas. So do you want to just give any plugs for like how we'd like to hear from folks?
Yes, continue in contact. We want to hear from you, of course. All your comments, suggestions, questions help us, provide better help. So yes, let's keep the conversation going. Absolutely.
And is that by email, isn't it? Really, email is kind of a good Oh, I suppose if we have personal contacts, that's different. But
yeah, of course. That was the other question.
yeah.
Yes. I'm going to send everybody a questionnaire. It's a Google form for you to complete, and you'll find a question there. I need to add it, so it's not going to be immediately, but this afternoon I'll do it. And I'm going to add a question about which do you think is the best way and mean of communication, if it's a WhatsApp group or if you want to continue in contact via email. We want to hear from you there. Okay.
But either way, on the Global Book Crawl,
I'll send you the form this afternoon, and that's one of the questions you find.
Yep. And also, I mean, if folks are watching this later on, the website is globalbookcrawl.org, and there is a contact page on there to reach out if you're just making contact. And someone had asked if this will be posted, and yes, absolutely, we're planning to post this recording, I think, on the site itself. Is that right, Federico?
Sure. Yes, of course.
So that'll be up as soon as we can get it organized, and we would love it if you wanted to share it far and wide. Thank you.
So thank you very much for attending, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Thanks
everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you next time.
Bye.